The text arrived close to midnight, lighting up my screen like a secret that didn't care about timing. I'm in Florence. I'll be home in a few days. That was all. No warmth, no explanation, no reassurance. Just a declaration, stripped of feeling. I sat there longer than I should have, phone in hand, oddly steady. For a long time, things hadn't felt right. Calls unanswered, smiles that never reached the eyes, trips that appeared out of nowhere and dissolved just as quickly. That message wasn't a shock. It was confirmation. I didn't challenge her. I didn't ask who she was with or why she hadn't told me earlier. I chose my response with care, letting clarity guide my fingers instead of hurt. Enjoy your time with him. The paperwork will be waiting when you get back. Then I did the one thing she would never have anticipated. I cut every line of contact. Her number, her profiles, her email, gone in moments. The quiet that followed wasn't empty. It was empowering. That choice wasn't impulsive. It was deliberate. I knew her well enough to predict what would come next. Confidence would turn into panic. Control would slip. And just as expected, my phone rang again and again, this time bearing her parents' names. I ignored the first few calls. Let them feel the same uncertainty I'd carried for months. She had always presented herself to them as perfect, devoted spouse, driven professional. They had no idea how fractured things really were. When I finally answered, her mother's voice shook as she asked why her daughter couldn't reach me. I spoke evenly. She made decisions, I said, and I was responding to them. That composure unsettled her more than anger ever could. Her father called next, firm and demanding at first. I gave him nothing but facts. The late nights, the inconsistencies, the growing distance, and finally the message about Florence. I didn't exaggerate or accuse. I let the truth speak without decoration. Silence followed, thick and heavy, then a breath filled with disappointment. They asked me to wait, to talk once she returned, to give it another chance. I told them I already had. Trust doesn't rebuild itself just because someone is sorry. Once it breaks, it becomes something else entirely. I explained that self-respect isn't negotiable. When the call ended, I felt lighter, not guilty. I wasn't defending a marriage anymore. I was closing it. While she wandered through Italy, smiling for photos and pretending nothing was wrong, my life at home quietly reorganized itself. I met with an attorney the next morning. Everything was handled cleanly, documents, timelines, assets. No emotion, no theatrics. I packed her belongings carefully, keeping everything intact. Separation doesn't require destruction. Friends noticed how calm I was and didn't know what to make of it. They expected fury or collapse. Instead, I leaned into routine and order. Meanwhile, her parents kept calling. Their tone changed from defensive to uneasy. They'd spoken to her, they said. Her explanations didn't line up. Stories shifted. Doubt crept in. I didn't feel vindicated. I just watched. Lies take effort. Truth doesn't. 3 days later, she reached me through a mutual friend's phone. Her voice cracked as soon as I answered. She laughed nervously, then cried, then pleaded. She claimed the trip meant nothing, that I misunderstood, that I was acting too fast. I listened quietly, like someone hearing a familiar ending retold. When she said she loved me, I asked one question: would you have told me the truth if I hadn't stayed silent? She had no answer. Silence answered for her. I told her the filing was complete, that my decision wasn't changing, and that reaching out through others wouldn't alter it. She called me heartless. I told her acceptance can sound cold when you're no longer fighting reality. Not every relationship ends in chaos. Some end with the simple understanding that what existed no longer does. A week later, after she returned early, shaken and desperate, her parents came to see me. This time, there was no defense of her actions. They apologized for doubting me, for mistaking silence for weakness. I accepted their apology without resentment. They were parents trying to protect their child, even when she was wrong. They asked if reconciliation was still possible. I shook my head gently. Some bridges don't burn loudly. They collapse quietly, and once they do, There's no crossing back. They left carrying that truth. That night, I slept deeply for the first time in months. Not because everything was resolved, but because nothing was being denied anymore. The weeks afterward felt lighter than I expected. Work improved. Focus returned. Friends stood by me. She, meanwhile, struggled. With regret, with reputation, with the loss of control she never thought she'd face. Messages came through emails I never opened. Eventually they stopped. I didn't follow her life. I didn't need to. Healing isn't about watching someone else unravel. It's about rebuilding yourself. I reestablished routines, set new goals, and rediscovered parts of myself I'd buried under compromise. People often think strength is loud, confrontational, dramatic. It isn't. Strength is knowing when to walk away without needing validation. I never yelled. I never insulted her. And yet, my silence carried more weight than any argument could have. Looking back, that single message from abroad didn't destroy my marriage. It revealed it. It showed me what I'd been accepting and what I deserved instead. Blocking her wasn't revenge. It was protection. Her parents' calls weren't interruptions. They were proof that truth always finds its way out. Some people cross oceans chasing excitement and lose what truly mattered at home. Others stay still, choose calm, and reclaim their future. I don't tell this story with anger. I tell it with understanding. Love without respect is just noise. Commitment without honesty is theater. And real peace begins the moment you stop bargaining with betrayal. That week she spent away changed both our lives. She came back to consequences.